Today, I have a couple of vintage Timex Datalink watches, and I want to see if I can transfer data to them using modern hardware. I'd also like to see if I can manage to transfer data to them using a vintage laptop running Windows 98 with some modern hardware attached. Why do this? Well, more on that later. I plan to accomplish this on the modern PC by using a Pi Pico W and an external LED. For the vintage laptop, I'll be using an Arduino Uno with a 9-pin serial port and attached cable. Now, before we get started, I need to give credit where it's due on this project. See, I didn't invent this method. I actually stumbled across this project out on GitHub from a user called Famiclone6502. This person has done a tremendous amount of work as far as creating the software to run atop the Arduino and or the Pico in order to make this happen. So I'm going to leave a link down to the GitHub project in the description below this video. So you'll definitely want to go check that out if you choose to do this. Now, I'm making this video because as I was doing my research trying to make these watches, work in the modern day, there was precious little information to be had out there. Except for this one guy who has done all this awesome work. So I'm making this video in hopes that maybe it will help someone else out who has some old vintage tech like this and they still want to use it. So on with the show. So we're going to be looking at the classic Timex Datalink watch. If you've never seen one of these, then well, prepare to be amazed. Developed as a joint venture between Timex and Microsoft and released in 1994. This was considered to be one of the very first smartwatches and was the first watch capable of downloading data wirelessly from a computer. The Datalink used an organizer type application on your PC to store things such as phone numbers, appointments, anniversaries, various lists, and even applications on certain watch models. So it was meant to be a mobile version of the then popular PDA device. What makes these so unique though is how they send that data from the PC to the watch. See, as opposed to cables or cords, they were able to use your CRT, which were everywhere in 1994, in order to transmit data via a series of screen flashes. Those flashes were read by a little magical eye on the front of the watch face. Unfortunately though, it was CRT or nothing because these don't work with LCD displays. In those days, even though CRT displays were the norm, laptops were beginning to become commonplace, especially in the road warrior and telecommuter market. So, in order to circumvent that LCD shortcoming, Timex released a notebook adapter, which was basically just a serial port attached flashy light that took the place of the CRT display. These notebook adapters are very rare to find and typically quite expensive when you do find one, which is why I'm doing this project in the first place. Well, this project can be broken down into a couple of different phases. We're going to use the Pi Pico on a modern machine with a 98 VM, and we're going to use the Arduino for the old notebook with straight serial communication. And the first step, or the first phase, is going to be using the Pico. So the idea here is going to be, we need to download the code from the GitHub project that I referenced earlier, which is linked down in the description of this video. We're going to download that. We're going to pop it over onto our Pico. At that point, we should just be able to attach our LED with a resistor. And at that point, it's a matter of just passing the COM port into the VM, installing and setting up the Timex Datalink software, giving it a test. So that's where we're going to start. And then when that project's complete, we're going to fly into the Arduino side of it, which is the one I'm really looking forward to be able to have, a vintage Windows laptop running 98 natively, doing serial communication with, my watch via light. So that's going to be pretty slick. On the Pico version of it, we'll use this watch, the one that I'm wearing on my wrist. And for the Arduino project, and the Windows 98 machine, we'll use this this boxed, seldomly opened, I don't want to say unopened because it's been opened a few times. In fact, I think it's had some wrist time on it. But anyway, this is a complete in-the-box working Timex Datalink. I believe it's a 150. We'll use that for the laptop and the Windows 98 deal. So let's get to work. Well, I have the air conditioner running in the background. Hopefully that doesn't cause too much of a distraction, but it's about 100 degrees outside today, so we need all the help we can staying cool. Now, a word about the Pico. The project out there on GitHub was originally designed for the first version, or the OG version of the Pico, which had an onboard LED light that you could use. Unfortunately, though, the onboard LED for the Pico W is tied to the wireless card and will not work for this project. So if you're going to use a Pico W, then you'll need to follow what I'm doing and use the external LED in order to make that happen. So what we're going to do, just as kind of a temporary kind of test here, is we're going to go ahead and put this LED temporarily. It goes between pins 18 and ground. So here's 18 and here's ground. And we can actually run it across just like this. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate it. The longer lead on these LEDs is positive. So I'm going to go between 18 for the positive and all the way over here for ground. Whoa. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect my resistor to the ground that I'm going to be using, which is this one. And I probably should get a resistor that hasn't been used 400 times. And for now, I'm just going to wrap this. I'm going to wrap this around here and cut it off, because I don't want to solder this until I know this is going to work the way I expect it to. Right. So we'll just kind of wrap it around like that and let that be it. I will, however, cut off this extra tail just so we don't get it shorted on something else. Okay, so there's that. And then for my actual LED, I'll go to 18. I'm just going to bend just a temporary hook in this, and we'll come back and solder this up if everything works like it's supposed to. 18 and ground. This is nice and temporary. We're going between 18 and ground, so that's correct. Next thing we'll do is we'll plug in our Arduino, and we'll plug this into the workstation. Now, if you've never used one of these before, if you're starting a new project or you're wanting to put something new on them, before you insert it into the workstation, you hold down this reset button while you insert it, and it'll basically just bring up a Windows Explorer dialog for you on your workstation, so you can copy stuff back and forth to it. Let me show you how that works on the workstation. All right, I'll hold down the button while I plug it into the workstation, and I see that I have my Pi 2, which it showed up as my E drive here. So what we're going to do is just move this out of the way for a second. We're going to jump back to the GitHub repository. We're going to go for the Pico version and DIY Datalink Pico UF2. And we'll click on that. And we'll just pull down that raw file. And there it is. We'll show that in the folder. At that point, we should be able to just drag it right over to the Pico. And as soon as you do that, you notice the Pico reboots, and it's coming back up now. And it should be running our software at this point. Now, everything else that's going to happen is going to happen on the workstation. We have our Pico plugged up from where we copied our software onto it, so we think that's running. So let's go ahead and fire up VMware Workstation. We're going to use this Windows 98 second edition version here, but we need to add a serial port to it first. But before we do that, we need to figure out what serial port the Pico decided it would be when we plugged it in. So we'll right click here, We'll go to Device Manager and look down here on ports, COM and LPT. We see that it installed itself as COM5. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit the settings of this virtual machine here. We're going to go down and add a serial port. Finish. Now here's there are two important things here. Obviously we want it to use the actual port that the Pico showed up as. That's thing one. But what's even more important is it's kind of quirky here, so we cannot choose connected power on. So we have to turn that off, and we don't want connected. Make sure when you start the VM that it looks like this. Hit OK. And let's power this thing on. And we have a super secret password here. How do you like that? I'll still have the welcome screen up because it's cool. All right, for this, I'm on my D drive, and I have, oh, there's the Datalink software. I should be able to install this. Let's go ahead and set this up now. Continue. Okay, continue. It's going to install the C Datalink. The days before security, right? And I don't really care about the README. We must restart the workstation, so let's do that. And let's let it round trip. So once again, we're back, and I'll hit our super secret password. And we get to play our intro music again. And at this point, we should have, sitting down here, Timex Datalink. I'm going to go ahead and I'll copy that shortcut out here to the desktop, because, you know, everything is supposed to live on the desktop. Put it right up here, right beside PC Anywhere. So let's go ahead and launch the software, and it's going to run us through, you know, some things about how it works and all this. The big thing it wants to know is what device type we have, and in order to figure that out, we have to look at our watch. In this case, we go into COM mode by hitting the orange button a few times, and we just have the simple COM ready and no versions underneath. So we can tell it that this is the version, this matches our watch. Next. And are you a road warrior? In this case, we're going to have to say yes, I have a Timex notebook adapter, even though we don't. Next, and output type is going to be from the notebook adapter because we don't have a CRT. And we can finish this at this point. Let's go ahead and do a quick setup on this. So it's going to fail here, and it's going to tell us that it's not found. This is where the quirkiness begins. At this point, we have to click on the serial port down here. Then we connect it. Then we tell it to retry. At this point, it should come up and find it. And there it is. Auto calibration was successful. Now it's gonna walk us through how to get everything fixed up and go COM ready, and how to, you know, where to position the watch and all that stuff, which we already know because I had one of these when they were new. I'm going to go ahead and skip through all of this stuff here. Say yes, it beeped, everything's good, we're so happy. So let's go into some appointments here, and let's make a couple of appointments. So let's say here, okay, maybe we should do something closer to today's date. Boy, this is a long time. Let's just say maybe sometime next, day after tomorrow, for example. Let's do that. Day after tomorrow. And I test a PPT. All right. And also we have the option here to send the appointments for the next, you know, however many days. So, you know, roughly 1 year. I think you can't go any more than 330 days. So just under a year. and the watch will notify you 15 minutes before. You can choose that, or you can choose just not to send them. We'll hit OK with that test appointment. And let's go in and put a couple of anniversaries in. Let's say this anniversary happened on, I don't know, say it's happened in 1982. And let's say this was August the 31st. Okay, and it's going to look forward and backward 3 months for things. And we'll say this is something cool happened. Let's go ahead and set another one for the 23rd. And let's just say I'll film this. That's good. I did that. All right. How about some phone numbers? Now, this person named George Burdell, he's already in here. We'll leave old George. And let's put Mike Smith, and we'll say 205-555-1234. Wow. I'm not in number lock, not even close. Mike Smith, 205-555-1234. Will it auto format for me? It will. Let's say this is going to be a cellular phone. When did you hear it called cellular phone last? And let's put his wife, Mary Smith, in there. Is 205-555-1265. And we're going to say that's also her cellular. No, that's her pager. Also, you can select which numbers you want to send or not send. So we'll select those three, hit OK. And let's do some kind of a list. Let's just say this is a grocery list. Milk, and I don't know, cheese, bread, and I don't know, coffee. And let's assign some priorities. Milk is medium at best. Cheese, again, that's a medium. Bread's pretty low. Coffee, that is on the absolute top. We're going to send these. Hit OK. Now, at this point, it should just be a matter of getting this ready to send to the watch. Okay, so we're going to try it like this. I don't know if the LED light that's up overhead above this this screen is going to make any difference or not. All right, so at this point, I'm going to hit send to watch, and I'm going to choose the Timex notebook adapter. I'm not going to show the tutorial. Actually, I need to go into COM mode before I do that. I do this by pressing the red button till I get to COM mode. There it is, COM mode. It should say COM ready, and hopefully you guys can see what's going on here. I don't know. So I'm going to hit send. And it says it's syncing. Okay, says COM mode data OK, and it's back to the COM ready mode. So at this point, I should have some things in here like anniversary. Hey, look, the Timex Datalink thing that we filmed is in there. Yay, phones. There's little George Burdell, and then we can hit next. And there's Mary, and there's Mike. So yeah, absolutely works. How cool is that? Splendid. All right, well, I have all of my phone directory. Well, I have some of my phone numbers in here, some anniversaries, and then some basic stuff in here. Not like I'm actually going to use the watch, but it's pretty doggone cool to have it, you know, have it working like this and have all this stuff. I do admit, I find myself wearing retro vintage watches like this occasionally, like the old Casio calculator watch or something like that. I like to wear them occasionally. They're a cool conversation piece, you know, especially with, you know, old tech dudes like myself. I also went ahead and took the time to solder an LED directly onto this Pico W board. I find that that it's a little cleaner, and this actually works better. See, with the resistor there, that made this light just a little bit faint, and with overhead LED lights especially, or LED monitors or something like that, anywhere in the vicinity, it was actually messing up the sync a lot. So I found myself having to really, you know, shield it as we were, you know, doing the transfer and all that stuff. But by clipping that resistor out of there and just putting this straight on to the Pico, it's a lot brighter. It's not too bright. I don't think we're going to have any issues out of it, but and I don't think we're going to have any issues with the driver. But anyway, it pretty much never fails now. I can just lay it on the table and sync the thing, and it just works. Having said that, this is probably not going to be my primary method of syncing because it's problematic. The whole deal with the way the serial port works inside VMware, particularly with this deal, to recap that, you actually have to start with the serial port disconnected. You have to boot the VM with the serial port disconnected. If you boot with it connected, the Timex software will never find it for whatever reason. So you have to start with it disconnected. Then you have to bring the Timex software up, and evidently at that point it's not really looking for a serial port, so you can't give it to it yet. You have to try to do a sync and let it fail. While the failure screen is up there, you can connect the serial port, wait a second, and try it again. It'll work fine, and it'll continue to work until you either unplug the Pico or reboot the VM, and that, in which case you start all over with it. So that's a little bit of an annoyance. So it makes this right here just a little bit quirky to use. So with that in mind, I think the next phase of this, which is the Arduino via serial on the Windows 98 laptop, that's probably where I'm going to hang my hat. So let's jump right into that section of this project too, see how easy and fun that's going to be. All right, this is the majority of what we're going to need here to complete this project. We have a Windows 98 laptop with an actual 9-pin serial port in the back. It's COM1. I'm actually using a straight through cable. The tutorial that was online suggested using a null modem cable, which swaps the transmit receive from end to end, but I wasn't able to make that happen. Instead, the straight through cable worked for me. So we also have the Arduino Uno. We have a DB9 serial port, and we have some jumper wires. And then of course, I guess the most important thing would be the actual watch itself. So I guess before we unbox the watch, we will go ahead and build the rest of this and put this together. So in order to do that, we have to turn our attention back to the computer, because we need to get our Arduino ready to go. So we're going to have to download some software for the Arduino called Arduino IDE. So we'll download that. Then we'll also get the file from the GitHub repository in order to put on this. And at that point, it should just be connected up and make it happen. So I'll see you at the workstation. Here we are back here at the Famiclone 6502 DIY Datalink adapter GitHub, and this time we're going to choose the Arduino version. Last time we did the Pico. So we'll click on this, and this is the INO file that we'll be running on our Arduino, and we'll click the download button here to get the raw file. That goes to our downloads directory. Now, this will also assume that you've already downloaded Arduino IDE, and to get that, you can go out to arduino.cc. Under software, there is Arduino IDE 2.1.1, which is the one that I have. Click on for Windows. You can contribute, or you can just download. And obviously that just downloads. I already have that. Setup is pretty straightforward. You literally just install it. So once all that's done, we'll need to go ahead and fire up Arduino IDE. So we'll plug our USB cable up to the Arduino. We'll stuff that into the computer. Now that we're plugged up, we should be able to go up here to select board and choose the Arduino Uno that it found on COM4. Now let's do File and Open. And we're going to jump out there to our downloads where we have this DIY Datalink adapter.ino. And it's going to put it inside a sketch folder. That's basically it's telling you that it's going to create a folder and move it into there. So we're cool with that. So it did it over here. We see that happen. At that point, we can hit upload. It's done uploading. Pretty straightforward stuff here. And at this point, our software should be running on the Arduino. Now that we have the software transferred over to our Arduino, I'm going to go ahead and unplug it, and let's set up the serial port, because that's really next, that and the LED. So basically, just like last time, I'm just going to try to use this LED directly. In order to do that, we're going to put the ground here on GND, and we're going to put positive on 12. So 12 to ground, and that should be our LED put together. Now, as far as connecting the IDE or the serial portion of it, I've got these little jumpers are male on one end and female on the other. And basically, what we're going to do here is we're going to find ground, which is clearly marked here. And we're going to use black for that one. And for VCC, we're going to use the 5-volt VCC. And that should be the pin right adjacent to it. So I'm on ground and 5 volts. And that's what will power this guy. And in my particular case, I'm going to stick with the color code that was on the tutorial. In yellow is for pin 8, and pin 9 is blue. So in this case, blue is going to be our transmit, and yellow is going to be our receive. So we'll hook up our VCC to red, and again, it's labeled here on the bottom of the port. Let's make some management happen here real quick. And for the black, that will go to the one marked ground. The pin 8 yellow wire will go to the RxD for receive data. And the blue one will go to the only other one using process of elimination, which should be TXD or transmit data. That should be pretty well hooked up at this point. So let's slide it over here. Let's get our serial port. All right, so once we plug power to this Arduino, we should theoretically have magic happening. So let's power it up. There it is. And it doesn't matter if I power it from another workstation or this workstation or a brick, it's all pretty much the same. So before I do anything, I'm going to go ahead and fire up the software and just see if our LED down here blinks. If you can see that LED or not. So I've already loaded the software up on the workstation because you've already seen it installed once and it looks exactly the same this time. I have not made a shortcut out there yet, so let's do that. You want to copy here. There. All right. Well, we fire this thing up, and I'm just going to go ahead and just Hail Mary and hit send to watch. We'll choose the notebook adapter. I don't really want a tutorial. We'll just say send. with any kind of, oh yeah, that's going to work. Look at that. That's going to work beautifully. It just is happening. No problem. All right, good. All right, let's go ahead and unbox this beauty here, and let's make it happen. Ooh, look at that. The watch. Like I said, this one has been worn some. It's actually a pretty nifty looking watch. Barely fits my big old wrist. Whoever wore it was a small guy, because that's where they wore it, and this is where I'm getting it. Cool. All right. So as with any Datalink watch, before you do anything, you clean the lens. I did not use my shirt tail, as far as you know. This thing came with all the goodies. The Datalink software, which does appear to have been opened, 5 1/4. The instruction manual on how to send data and all that in 2 languages. Holy cow, I can get a free membership to CompuServe. It's the world's leading online information service. This will get me right on the information superhighway immediately. I wonder what happens if I fill that out and send it in. Yeah, probably nothing. And here is the main user manual. This is a pretty serious little manual. You don't get stuff like this anymore. You get a link to a PDF somewhere. But anyway, we got the manual, and here's the software portion of the manual on how to use the software. So that's pretty cool. And the warranties, the guarantees, the warranties and the Canadian warranties. I don't see anything about US warranties, but surely it had one and doesn't have one anymore. Anyway, without further ado, let's try to send, actually, let's go in and let's make some appointments and anniversaries and things and make that happen. I'm going to have an appointment way up in 2023, and I'm going to say this is going to be tomorrow. 10 o'clock's fine. Go to work. Obviously I'm not going at 10, but hey. And let's have ourselves another one, and let's say that maybe next week, or no, not next month, not next year. Next week, let's say 1 week out. Okay, and we're going to say this is 12 o'clock p.m. and we're going to say have lunch. Good. Have that. We'll jump into anniversaries, and I think we made the last one 82. We'll make this one 84. Let's see, September, let's say September the 3rd. Someone's birthday. Don't know who, but someone. But since we're sending occurrences within 3 months forward and backward, we should get this one on the watch. Phone numbers. Well, old George Burdell's there. And let's just say we're going to make this Bill Gates. 234-555-2345. That's going to be Bill's home number. You guys probably shouldn't try to call that, but you know, it is what it is. We're going to say we're going to have an entry for Microsoft. support. We're going to call that 1-800-555-8900. Sound good? Whoa, that's not good. So you can't format it with a 1. So we'll call it 800-555-8999. Sounds good. It's going to be their work address. Their work. All right. That's good enough. We'll hit OK on that. And our list is going to be earth, wind, fire. All right, and we're good with those priorities. Also, we can go into time settings and we can set our time zone because it wants us to. And we can choose to set from the PC clock, but we're probably not going to do that. Actually, it's probably going to do that anyway, which is, I guess that's fine, right? Set PC clock. It's right. It's right. All right, time zone 1, time zone 2. So let's do time zone 1, Central Time, and we'll do time zone 2 as Eastern Time because, well, that's really hard to figure out. All right, let's try to send this to the watch and see what happens. From our watch, we'll jump into COM mode. COM mode. We get a COM ready, and we should be able to just hit send to watch. Hopefully you guys will be able to see what's going on. Send to watch. And we'll use the notebook adapter. Don't want a tutorial, we'll just do send. So that failed. This is where we have to kind of shield it some because these lights, they really make a mess. So you see there it's syncing just fine now, but it's these overhead lights. It says it's completed, but it didn't complete. So what I'm going to have to do is turn this overhead humongous LED panel off. And we will probably have a bit better luck. Let's try it. Send to watch. Send. So it jumps into COM mode for a second and then it jumps out. See what it's doing there? Well, try as I might, I could never get this watch to sync with either the Arduino or the other Pico that we set up. This one, it starts off with a good game. You know, it'll show that you know, it comes into COM mode, and when it starts to flash, you see the receiving thing happen, and then the LED does a quick pause before it actually starts sending data. I guess that's after the initial handshake, and when it makes that pause, this watch drops out. But this watch, when it makes that pause, this watch keeps on going, and that's where it actually starts to receive data. So all I can think is there's something up with this watch. I don't know what, but this one works fine on both of them, so I guess that's fine. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to put it right back in its original little case here, displaying the time. And I'm probably just going to leave it because this is a display piece anyway, and this is one that I actually wear, so it works and I'm okay with that. As for this monstrosity, I think I will probably end up 3D printing a case for it and just kind of keep it aside because, I mean, it does work. It like I said, it syncs this watch brilliantly every single time. So if nothing else, I can put this with all my other projects and That works. Well, overall, do we think this was a success? Yeah, I think it was, because the one watch that I wear every day syncs very well between both machines. So I think that's pretty good. You know, the other watch just having some kind of a problem. Who knows how deep that problem is. One day I might pop into it and just see what happens with it on a revisit video possibly, or something like that. But this thing sits on my shelf at my office and just, you know, draws a lot of conversation. So I'm okay with that. Again, I would like to put a big thanks out to the original creator of the code for all this project, and that's Famiclone 6502, I believe it is. Again, make sure you look down there in the description for that project. Also, for everything that I used here today, I'm going to drop a link down in Amazon. If you guys want to do this this project, I'll just put together a nice little bundle, and fruit fly, a nice little bundle, and you guys can just grab that, throw it in your cart, and go do this project. Pretty inexpensive and heck of a lot of fun, actually. Anyway, as always, guys, thanks for watching.